Western liberal democracy not suitable for Africa, says former Nigerian president. Who is to blame for the failure of democracy on the continent, the political actors or democracy as a system of government? Also on the program, water harvesting and recycling technology to help Kenya cut shortages. We'll be looking at that on the program. This is Africa Update on Trust TV, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Ayuba Ila. Thanks for joining. Former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo says Western liberal democracy is unsuitable for Africa and seems not to be working for Nigeria and other African countries. According to the former president, Western democracy, as it is being practiced in Nigeria and other African countries, should be re-examined or moderated. He stated that this is because it has not delivered on good governance and progressive development for the continent.
We have a system of government in which we have no hands to define and design, and we continue with it, even when we know that it is not working for us. Those who brought it to us are now questioning the rightness of their invention, its deliverability and its relevance today without reform. The essence of any system of government is the welfare and the well-being of the people, all the people. Here we must interrogate performance of democracy in the West, where it originated from, and with all the inhibition of what we are left with over by the colonial power. Einstein said that it will amount to height of folly to continue to do the same thing that had not worked and expect different results. And that is the situation we find ourselves. We are here to stop being foolish and stupid. Can we look inward and outward to see what in our history, our culture, our tradition, our practice, our living experience over the years that we can learn from, adapt and adopt with practices everywhere for a changed system of government that will serve our purpose better.
Now, to further discuss this, we have joining us virtually Dr. El Harun Mohammed, Director, Institute for Policy Development and Innovative Studies in Kaduna. He is also a lecturer teaching international relations and development at Kaduna Polytechnic. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update today, Doctor. All right. So, Doctor, let's get your take on this debate. Who do we blame for the failure of democracy on the African continent? Is it the political actors, or is it democracy as a system of government?
So the dilemma of governance in Nigeria is predicated on factors. The international environment that entails America largely our colonial masters. Secondly, the actors who operate the democracy. And thirdly, the electorate, the citizens. So these are responsible for bad governance, failure of democracy in Nigeria. Factor number one, the legal environment. Yes, Britain that colonized us, in the process of colonization, succeeded in disrupting our indigenous political and cultural values should have sustained a system of governance and leadership. But for colonization, they decided to disrupt our indigenous system. In that, they succeeded in improving their own system. Firstly, I'm referring to colonialism. That was the time Britain decided to colonize us and force the political system. Almost like Nigeria, if that was denied, was all from far away Britain. Governors and residents appointed Britain. By the time to leave, they make sure train the citizens that will start as their puppets that will perpetuate the colonial enterprise, this kind of the colonial taking. So, like our operators of the system, the ruling elite, they are masters. The international, if you like, as their own, and remotely abroad, they make sure until those you cannot arrive.
But doctor,
the most recent was all candidates that contested presidential election just of 2023, March to March, Chatham House in Britain. One promise or another, if some interview, the engagement at Chatham House more or less forum for the leaders into certain one that at long run will serve colonial interest.
But doctor, for how long are we going to blame the Western world or the colonial masters, as it were, for our woes here in Nigeria? I mean, Nigeria is over 60 years old in terms after independence. I mean, we are talking about 6 decades. How long are we going to continue to look back and say, well, the colonial masters are responsible for where we are?
Yes, decisively have to continue to blame them because they are still playing role. I recall in 2015, part of to inaugurate the Buhari government, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair was invited to deliver in Abuja. To describe Tony Blair as hidden petrol to APC. In the speech he delivered, he added 3 things: withdrawal of subsidy, privatization, and taxes on Nigerians. For the Buhari administration, this is what he has. And exactly this is what the tinubu is out to pay. More taxes on Nigeria, withdrawal of subsidy, and privatization. It's Tony Blair that's the agenda for APC. So that you can discontinue colonial enterprise in our dilemma. And they make sure they are in power. I remember a session I had with the former, when Aminu Tambo, the Speaker of the House of Reps, he told us in a session that when the debates were going in the national on same-sex marriage, or whole David Cameron of Britain, Barack Obama of the United States.
You've blamed the international community, or I would say the Western world, for the failure of democracy on the African continent. But the Western world are not the ones practicing anti-democratic practices here in Nigeria. They shouldn't be blamed for rigging. They shouldn't be blamed for presidents or heads of state sitting tight and refusing to allow the will of the people to take precedence.
Yes, the blame should be shared for the three forces: international community, that is the power elite, and then the community itself.
Okay.
Context of the elite, they make sure that the international community intervene, and make sure that an agent of theirs is set into the political dynamic. So this is where they come in. I started of Chatham House, how our for various parties chipping into Britain, delivers various promises, and US, Britain, and their allies deem their political terrain in Nigeria, other that belongs to them. So this is the level of their interference.
Yes.
For one to understand how this I am a World Bank. These are national agencies located at a state.
Okay, Doctor.
Controlled by it. And look at
Doctor, the African people elect their leaders, right, during elections, and they are the ones who choose who to lead them. And then we've seen, anti-democratic practices across the continent. Is it really fair to put the blame on foreign interference?
Yes, because if candidate that is board, witness is provided that social candidate has manipulated electoral process, right? They will turn their back on evidence. These are across Africa. And by the same token, how the electoral law line and being implemented, what African societies, to the end of the interest of the public, the international community do see there are situations where NGOs and other non-profit can come around to monitor the election. At the end of the day, they end up doing otherwise what they should have done to ensure that the right candidate is on board, the right election do take place. In most cases, it's not in place. So, the second point is the extent the candidates are being manipulated to come on board. So, this also increases to the extent of intervention of colonial masters.
Okay. Doctor, when you look at the statement made by former President Olusegun Obasanjo about the need for a rethink on democracy that is being practiced here in Nigeria and Africa as a whole, what's your own take? What version of democracy are we talking about, really? And this version of democracy that that he described as Afro democracy, isn't it the same principles of freedom, the same principles of representation, the same principles that we see in the current Western liberal democracy that are going to be imbibed?
Well, the observation by Olusegun Obasanjo is right. to capture the dilemma of democracy in Africa and in general. At a point, one asked question, what means democracy? I was watching during the funeral ceremony, led Queen when her son Charles was being sworn in. They described democracy, monarchical democracy. I said, what is monarchical democracy? What are its principles? Take Britain, for example. You now ask, what is democracy there? House of Lords, none of elected there. Largely, that democracy, if a system whereby you right to go and choose their leaders. Members of the House of Lords been elected, and is Queen and King elected to preside British society. So now one asks question, what is then democracy? So where Obasanjo make a lot of that we need to involve our own system, our own tradition, our own values, reflect our needs and address our problems. Unless we do this, continue ourselves from one failure to another.
In your own observation, what template then should Nigeria be considering, or Africa should consider, that is workable, that is suitable for the continent and for the country?
Yes, the template should evolve must come from the society. From colonial intervention, we have reached history has wrote clearly. In fact, I have what Rodney described Sokoto Caliphate as one of the system of government. So there's a lot. We had Empire, we had Benin Kingdom, we have Oyo Empire. There are a lot from this, where them viable. Study this system and take the principles that make them viable, use them in to find our problems, in meet our needs. Of this, so we have to engage the entire society, our thinkers, scholars, our national title holders, all come on board to think and come up with a system. Working system here has to do with our problems, adjusting it.
At the end of the day, when you think about the issue of representation, for the generality of the people, which democracy embodies, and the issue of periodic elections and so on, does that template you are talking about take into cognizance these values?
Well, periodic election does not reflect needs and value. The society must define its needs in the context of its values. Unless we will not reach anywhere. To find our values, which will not pinpoint and how best to address our needs. So in this context, when we are now coming out with this that will work and serve.
How do you think the political party system that we have in place is also impeding, the dividends of democracy? It's hindering the people from actually benefiting from what democracy is supposed to actually give them?
Democracy, as far as Nigeria is in this area, you cannot even see between the electorate, the representatives elected to Abuja as members of House of Reps, as senators, members of state, no connection whatsoever. What they are doing is entirely different from the needs of the society. Most of the bills years largely have not come the needs of the society. So of making laws that will now address the needs of the society is not there. Our problems are prevalent before 1999. Becoming more compounded, more complex, more. So you wonder what Abuja are doing. Our senators, House of they doing, and this because the society is careless. We don't even know what to do. We are wondering. Anytime from them will go on recess, which will take them to. Before they go on recess, they will money back along with them their break. Okay. So this is a tragedy.
Some
and
people
they don't even know what they are doing. You just come on a part of suffocating macaroni, maybe with 1,000 naira to cooking oil and maggi. Okay. To manipulate the electoral process.
Okay, Doctor, some people argue that Nigeria is where it is today because it deviated from the actual system of governance that was carved or that was, initially introduced to the system. So talking about the federal system of government where the, the sub-states, contribute to the central and, in that way, all the different parts of the country get the chance and develop in their own pace. Do you think that we'll be where we are today if not for that deviation?
Well, seeing much of deviation here in the federal system, because it is basically about trying to add various ethnicities, cultures, to contact national survival. These are some problems. So I think more or less is working as the various polarities that made the contraption area.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Doctor. Quite a lot to chew on the program. We thank you for joining us and sharing your perspectives. Dr. El Harun Muhammad, Director, Institute for Policy Development and Innovative Studies, Kaduna, and also lecturer teaching international relations and development at Kaduna Polytechnic. We look forward to having you on the program again.
Thank you. Very good.
All right, this is Africa Update on Trust TV, reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. After the break, we'll take a look at water harvesting and recycling technology to help Kenya cut shortages. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Africa Update on Trust TV. Now, as Kenya prepares for heavy rains forecasted to occur in November and December, water harvesting and recycling technology developed by a Kenyan entrepreneur could help reduce water shortages during drier times of the year. VOA's Juma Majanga reports from Isinya, Kenya.
In the scorching sun in Isinya, a town in Kenya's Kajiado County, Daniel Wanjuki marvels at lush green grass and vegetation grown using recycled wastewater. Kenya still grapples with a water shortage, a problem largely pronounced in semi-arid lands like this one. Wanjuki, the founder of the waste management services company EcoSave, says his wastewater recycling technology can help cut the shortage.
We have this volume of water today that immediately becomes waste by midnight, let's say. And tomorrow you have to go for more water, to abstract for more water, to fill up the gap. I saw an opportunity where wastewater, if harnessed, treated, decontaminated, and neutralized, could be reused over and over again.
EcoSave Africa uses a biological agent called EcoTreat to break down wastewater, remove the bad odor, coloration, and pathogen bacteria, and recycle it back into use without much harm to the environment. The non-mechanical technology reduces the methane gas usually generated during waste management, thus benefiting the environment.
It's about six seasons of no rainfall around here. And when you look at it, you see that if there was water, people would survive it. But without water, there's no chance. Both the wildlife and the livestock have suffered the impact of lack of water. And the aspect of us not keeping the little or holding the little that we get is a big challenge that we should actually try to overcome by creating opportunities for water harvesting, water storage, and finally water reticulation or recovery.
Users of the biological water recycling technology say it is not only environmentally friendly but also cost-effective. William Kiari has deployed the technology in his hotel. He uses recycled water to grow trees to improve shade in the compound.
This is saving us significant amounts of money. We would say a minimum of 100,000 shillings a month. And maybe we are spending 10,000 shillings a month at most for buying that culture. And the system has hardly any maintenance needs, and in a very dry area, we can recreate greenery.
Water remains a big factor in food production. The theme for this year's World Food Day, celebrated October 16, was Water is Life, Water is Food. Wanjuki hopes to spread his wastewater recycling technology to the rest of the world.
Be confident as we go to COP28 that the technology we are deploying here in this compound will be deployed in 1,000,001 houses around the world. And that's what we are set up to do.
The United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 6 is to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Kenya is still classified among the most water-scarce countries in the world, according to USAID.
All right, that's a wrap on Africa Update this week. You can watch more via all our social media platforms and also on our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba Ila. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.